Recording in progress.
Type.
All right. Spent so long watching you get into mode. I didn't get into mode.
Yo, you want to take a second, get into mode?
This is the second I'm taking. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Banquet Hall podcast. You see how my podcast always starts?
Yeah, that was nice.
I've been over here just, we chilling, bro. And it's like, welcome.
Yeah, switched up on me.
But welcome to another live episode of the Banquet Hall podcast. Probably the most random episode that I've started. But also not, because I did bring the camera, the tripod, and the microphones with me to San Diego. So it's not like
It was like, if it happens, it happens. If it aligns, it aligns.
Stay ready, so you ain't got to get ready.
Tight.
That's what we do at the Banquet Hall. Listeners, if this is your first time checking out the podcast, make sure y'all do all the things. We know the things, like subscribe, follow, tell a friend, at Banquet Hall Pod. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. I think Pandora, maybe Apple Podcasts. I might have said that. YouTube. There's some other random things that when you sign up.
Tidal?
We're not on Tidal. I just disappointed him.
That's fine.
I don't know if y'all saw that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I am a little nervous. I am in the presence of greatness. I got Malcolm X staring at me right there. Got the Lemonade album. Got Kevin Gates. Erykah Badu. And Homer's Odyssey's right here staring at me. That's a lot of pressure. Hey, you're here too, but I mean...
there's Emotional Intelligence 2.0 here.
But see, I can't see that one.
Oh, you're right.
It's blocked by Erykah Badu, but Homer's The Odyssey is right here.
Oh, you forgot Henrietta?
I did not forget Henrietta. Henrietta's next on the list.
Oh, okay.
Henrietta Lacks is right here. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. The best American legal writing. There's a lot of pressure in this corner of the room.
You're going to read my bookcase off.
I got the Loyal music video in the back paused on the screen. Just observing the surroundings, you know.
Not by choice. That was YouTube. That was all YouTube.
Before we started recording, we went through the 2000s.
Randomly, it just really went through the 2000s.
And I really went through a place in my head too. I was like, dang, where was I when these songs came on? But I'm happy to be on the podcast with you yet again. Why don't you introduce yourself to the people? I want to see how you introduce yourself.
Oh, that's interesting. Hi, I'm Domonique. A lot of people know me as Kovu. I am what am I? I don't know. I'm free.
Yeah, you don't have to answer what you are. Before we start recording, I was going to ask who I should introduce you as, but I was like, no, I'm going to let you say it.
Oh, yeah, no. So, a lot of people know me as Kovu, and that's fine. But I realized I hadn't heard my actual, name in almost 10 years. And the reason why Kovu was a thing in the first place is because he used to be active duty. And there was a lot of things I was doing in the military, within the community, that you shouldn't be, you can't really do while you're in the military. So I'm like, all right, if nobody knows my name. And it worked out for me, beautifully, actually.
See, in retrospect, though, I wish you would have had the glasses on when you was COVID. That way it could be like your Clark Kent.
Oh, I did have a mask on.
You did have a mask on. Several different iterations of masks, I would say. But through and through, I always felt like, I don't know, I feel like I was a observer who, I've known you for almost 10 years, like we discussed prior to the start of the podcast, and just seeing how you move through community, I was like, I like that.
What'd you like about it? That's interesting.
I think just the level of intention, even down to how people refer to you, how you're introducing yourself into community, the intentional connections that you make with people. Our first connection at an open mic, do a poem and you authentically approach someone after do their poem. I like that shit. Dope shit. And then the connections are born. And I think that level of just hearing and seeing people at an open mic, I appreciated that. As someone, because when I first met you, that might have been no more than my 5th time at an open mic in San Diego. Really? And so to be able to have that connection with somebody after being vulnerable on a stage, it's like, like maybe San Diego does have some real people. But here we are, 2025, the year of our Lord.
It's interesting though. I think in those moments, those are probably the only time, in retrospect, that I was actually me. Like in those moments in between when somebody is vulnerable, and then you come and speak to them while they're in that vulnerability. I think that those is probably the few times where I was actually me. Because vulnerability is like a permissions game. If you being vulnerable gives somebody else permission to be vulnerable. And so like I think like during that time frame, like that was probably, I didn't know it at the time, but that was the only time I was like actually me.
And even when you say like, you mentioned that you're free right now.
Yeah.
And we've had plenty of conversations, some just a few minutes, some 30, 40 minutes on the phone over the last several months. And one of the things that I say like every time that we have a conversation, I was like, you like sound free. The vibe's different. And I should have looked to see the date of your first appearance on the podcast, but that was one of the first like 20 to 30 episodes of the pod.
Yeah.
And so much has changed since then.
Literally. Nah, literally. I even, I don't even think I did that podcast as myself. Not wholly.
I mean, your head was like this the whole time. Like,
yeah.
When I was editing, I'm like, the whole time, it's just like
sitting there. That, which says a lot. Body language says a lot, you know what I mean? I think I was definitely managing a lot. I was definitely intellectualizing a lot. Wasn't doing a lot of feeling. So.
And I think even just like that level of thought about like intellectualizing versus feeling, like I feel like that's something that not a lot of people distinguish between the two. Not necessarily to say not a lot, but I feel like intellectualizing isn't a word that is thrown around all the time. I feel like people think of words like perception, feeling, seeing, but intellectualizing versus feeling, what distinguishes that?
Not having a connection to my body. The best way I can explain it is I wear a size 12, right?
Weird flex. You know I got a message.
I know. No, so I wear a size 12.
I wear a size 12 and a half.
That's what's up.
No, I wear a size 12. I'm capping like a motherfucker.
But here's the thing, though. I didn't know I wore a size 12 until like 3 weeks ago.
Interesting.
I have been wearing an 11 and a half since I was a kid. And my feet would be like this in my shoes. And I was so disconnected from my body that I couldn't even realize that was pain. It was familiar. And so I just always thought, I would even tell people like, yeah, 11 and a half. I would buy shit 11 and a half. I would try shoes on. And that feeling that I thought was regular is what I would go for and look for. And so that is the difference between intellectualizing and feeling. I only very recently gained access to being able to feel. Like within these last few months type. Like knowing, for example, what sadness feels like in my body, what happiness feels like in my body, what anxiety feels like in my body, not just words, because like we've had mental health Fridays over the years, and I've talked about it, can break it down to a T and talk to somebody else about it, but when it came to actually feeling it for myself, nah, I didn't even know.
And I think that shoe metaphor, excuse the pun, but it's so fitting.
I
was trying to search for another word.
No, it is.
It's just so fitting because I think that scrunching, and you even go like this, like that's such a specific, like I get that feeling.
Yeah.
Like when your toes are scrunched up against the walls of the shoe. And once you notice it, it's like, like they do need a little bit of room to breathe and like wiggle your toes. So I feel like you're in your wiggle the toes era. Have you been wiggling your toes?
Yeah, man, I've been not wearing shoes. For that metaphor, I've been not wearing shoes. It's like, all right, so now I got a closet full of shoes that are 11 and a half. I've built a style around wearing 11 and a half. Certain shoes, certain sizes only have certain styles. And so I'm used to 11 and a half. People, if they're going to get me shoes, they'll get me 11 and a half. So then I have to, one, clean out my closet first. And then reconnect with people and let them know my actual size, where I'm at.
And if a shoe fits,
wear that motherfucker.
Wear that motherfucker.
If a shoe fits, steal it. No.
The Bank It All podcast is not.
Not endorse stealing or anything of any kind.
Gotta have a little ticker going across the bottom.
Right.
I thought it would be a little bit wild into the podcast before you stump me with a not stump me with a metaphor, but bring up a metaphor that I really like. And we're in National Poetry Month. We're recording this in April, so I haven't done my 5 out of 30 yet. So might be a size 12 shoe in there. I don't know yet.
Hey, that'll be cool.
Because as you have acknowledged, I've really been writing lately.
You've been writing, boy.
I got that text. Dominique texted me last night and said, "You've been writing." I was like, "Oh, it's coming off like that."
Yeah, you've been writing.
But it's
Hard
funny.
R.
You said what?
Hard R activities.
I like subconsciously knew you said it. I was like, "Nah, you didn't say that."
We ain't do the podcast like that.
Hey, if you feel it,
finesse it. You got it.
Finesse it, express it. But that poem. So on my 4 out of 30, which will be in a book that will be out not too long after this podcast is out, was talking about the notion of it takes a village. And I think that I've been in a very reflective state over the last month or so, partially with the anniversaries of different significant things that are happening in my life, as well as my birthday's coming up. And I think naturally... Earth Day. Naturally, like a month or so, give or take, for my birthday, I'm just in this very reflective phase. And on Wednesday of this week, a friend and I went to my first open mic, non-Black expression open mic in a while.
Yeah.
Literally, shout out to the algorithm. It's one of those signs the algorithm actually does good, because I was looking at DPO to see when their next open mic was, and then it's had this Instagram page, East Low Soul. That popped up on my page. I was like, like East Low Soul, like without even knowing anything else, I was like, oh, that's community.
Oh, you're looking for spaces up there, up in LA? I got a few for you.
Well, more so Inland Empire than LA, but would love to have the list anyway. But getting back to seeing the East Low Soul Instagram page, I was like, okay, who follows the page? And it was Shion that followed the page. I was like, all right, these are dots that are like, okay, this is a space where let me go to this open mic and check it out. And went to the open mic, started at 8, got there a little after 8, should have known better. Should have known better. I don't know what it was. I should have known better than to get here at 8. Literally, because my friend, we walked in, we was like one of the first people there. I was like, man, I should have known. Why did I get
But I give you time to scope out the place, I think. You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Like, scope out the place, feel out the energy, and the energy that I received upon entering was the energy I feel like we try to create with the Black expression community. Yeah. Like, I walked in, a couple people at the table just vibing to music. Oh, how y'all doing? Welcome. Thanks for coming. I was like, like, somebody sees me today. Somebody said hello to me today. Somebody asked how I'm doing today. Then they invite, like, oh, you can hang out. We just setting up. We'll get started in a few minutes. Check out the vendors. They had like 5 or 6 tables of vendors, all Black and brown folks. And just being able to walk through that open mic space and be, just be a visitor at an open mic, be a new face in the scene, and not feel the need to do anything, but just exist and observe. I found myself thinking back on those early days of Black expression. They started the open mic, and they say that they started the open mic back in July. So I was like, this is like, y'all are a young open mic. Like, y'all are still learning, but doing while you're learning. Like, still putting on the open mic, still putting things together, but it's community. Y'all are here for community. People here know each
The
other.
ideal still matters.
The ideal matters. And that was evident in everything that went on in the open mic. And it just made me think of those early... I even told my friend in the moment, I was like, made me think of those early days at Caribbean Pleasures.
Shout out Caribbean Pleasures.
Shout out Caribbean Pleasures. And that was just like... It was community in the back of this restaurant.
I love that.
And I think just knowing that that was like going on almost 10 years since then.
Yeah.
And now that we aren't doing Black Expression every Friday, like, what do you think of when you think of like the open mic community and that saga of, not that the poetry community is dead or anything, but that's saga between those nights of Caribbean Pleasure to most recently where we've been having Black Expression, just the growth of everybody and everything. I know that's a large question, but...
What do I think about it as the growth of everything and everyone? I think, oddly enough, I think my perspective on Black expression might be a little kind of, I think the word is juxtaposed to everyone else's.
Tell me more.
Or what I think might be everyone else's, because you never know. I couldn't tell you. I wasn't present for so much of it. So much of Black expression I was not present for. I know that it meant a lot to a lot of people. I know it did a lot for a lot of people. And I know there are people who still, hold it in high regard. But because I wasn't present, my association with it was like, a lot of anxiety. It was, and what I've come to understand is, like, I would be like, okay, well, there's some people behind the scenes that do like crazy stuff or whatever, right? But what I kind of realize is like, a lot of that was because I was doing what I had been doing my whole life, just with a new twist to it. The growth I see in everyone, I think it's dope. The things that have come from it, I legitimately think it's dope, and I can actually feel it now. Where before, it was just conceptually fire. Like, shout out Jazzy Wolf for Wolf Wednesdays that they do out in Denver. When I flew out in Denver, she told me like, yo, like this, literally inspired to do that. So many other people inspired to do things, and I'm like, well, that was the point. That was always like the point of it. But as from Caribbean Pleasures to where we paused that in the Guild Room, I like the growth in terms of those who left. Those who left and like moved out of town. Seeing where they're at, checking in, and like not even checking in on them, just like observing and seeing the growth of like you, Sega, like seeing like y'all grow up, Derek, seeing y'all grow into yourselves, like that has been amazing. I just was not present. So for me, a lot of it I have to look back in retrospect, like now, and go like, oh no, that was something that was cool because I was in autopilot.
And I think there's, well, at least what I'm interested in discussing a little further, because I think there's a lot to be said with how present you're able to come off as, even if you feel like you're on autopilot. And I think it comes down to intent versus impact, because even if you don't feel like you're present in the moment or know in retrospect that you weren't physically, mentally, sensory-wise present in the moment, like, I think just natural you...
Yeah, definitely.
Still was anchored in a little bit of presence.
No, definitely for sure. But like I said, it would be in those moments that counted. will be in those moments where I can feel someone is, they're considering not being here.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel that. And then, but it had to be so extreme for me to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the things that occurred when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I had learned to turn off fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like a single digit age. So at that age, I don't know what all my emotions are as I'm still learning them. If there's a sensation, I assume it's fear, so I'm not feeling that. So then I turn myself into something that's always physically safe, but the cost of that is not being able to tell when I'm around emotionally unsafe people. Or when I'm not even people, where I'm just not emotionally safe. And so when I say present, I mean like physically I was present, intellectually I was present, mentally I was present, emotionally I can be more dead. I couldn't have been more dead, I don't think. Or not even dead, I couldn't have been more disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And so like growth-wise, I think it was dope, I think it's amazing, but I think the biggest growth occurred for me when I decided that I was going to pause it indefinitely. Because as I'm looking at it, that was just the beginning of a lot of changes or permission to change within myself.
Mm-hmm. And I think obviously you and I have behind the scenes, and I use behind the scenes very loosely. It's not like we had a secret society meeting.
Right.
But just in terms of knowing more of the day-to-day, the group chat messages, and like that moment when you say like, yeah, like I'm going to pause Black Expression, or we're going to stop the show, and definitely whatever it may be. Obviously came from a series of thoughts, feelings, perspective, experiences, and just knowing what you need to do. I think for a community, sometimes those things can happen abruptly.
Yeah.
And so I think that as I think about that period of time when Black Expression ended, everybody's, oh, what's happening? I think that to me was a microcosm of how humanly messy a village is also.
Yeah.
Just thinking through, because earlier today I told you I was with Shayna, we took a walk and we're talking about poetry and whatnot. And I asked her, like, oh, how long have you been in San Diego? She's like, oh, I've been here like 4 years. I'm like, dang, like time really is.
It's a vortex here, for sure.
It's a vortex here. And just thinking through how close a community can feel together when you get together every Friday night and people are pouring their hearts out. But also how much you don't know outside of the open mic, how much you don't know that people are going through, who people are, but there's a shared understanding of we're coming into this space that we would love to be a safe space. It's more of a brave space than a safe space, but this space together, and we connect, we do things outside of Black Expression, but at the end of the day, this is a random, for lack of a better word, but a random subset of people in society and culture. People have varying levels of emotional intelligence, varying levels of
It's a hard crack.
It was a hard crack. But just they're varying personality wise. And I think through like just how many clashing different personalities come together, put on an event like this, and how we try to take care of each other. No one knows the right way to do it, but we all kind of just like, well, it looked like a square hole. Someone put a square peg in there.
Yeah.
But we're learning, we're experiencing together. And I say all that to say, like, I think the fact that it even lasted as long as it did is something special.
Yeah.
But I am happy to see like just how not having to perform in that space or put forth a lot of that emotional labor while you're not feeling that emotional labor, like that, how light you feel, how light you look, how free you seem to be. Every time I go on social media, you posting a long caption, painting, dancing, working, doing something. Like, I'm happy he's living life.
Yeah. And I just want to just to be clear, it's not just like Black Expression that was at. Like it wasn't like Black Expression wasn't at the point where I stopped it. Black Expression wasn't draining me. Black Expression wasn't draining me since we brought it back the first time. It hadn't been draining me. Now there are some things to do with like outside and running, and so like when I went home to take care of my mom and all those things were definitely draining. But Black expression in itself wasn't draining to me. It just is a combination of things. And something happened like, we don't have to get into it, but something happened like not this past January, but about a year and a half ago now. And I hadn't realized how much of my sense of self it had shattered.
Mm.
And it took a year and about a year and 2 months or so for me to understand that that was a canon event. Mm. That was something that needed to happen. Not necessarily that. I mean, it could have been anything, but something needed to happen for my sense of self to be shattered, for me to ultimately understand, like, oh, I was actually never being myself. Mm. I was being a survivor. And so I was responding to everything as a survivor. And the things that I had survived, the mechanisms that had been put in place for me to survive those things were not healthy for me. Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, Black expression lasted as long as it did because I didn't have no boundaries. Because I was chronically self-abandoning. Mm. Chronically self-sacrificing. But also really, really unkind to myself. And if you're unkind to yourself, you can only be so kind to the people around you. It's like this thing I've been talking to people about as of late is like a concept of having empathy and accountability. Mm-hmm. And if you have, or compassion, whichever you want to say. But if you have empathy without accountability or compassion without accountability, that's enabling. And you're going to self-abandon, self-sabotage, self-betray. That's the word I was looking for. You're going to self-betray. And then resentment is going to get created. And that resentment isn't going to go outward because you don't have accountability for it to go outward. It's going to go inward and it's going to turn into shame. And that's going to turn into a cycle that repeats and just deeper. Mm-hmm. And then if you have accountability without empathy or compassion, that's damning. So then if you only offer a person accountability on what they're doing wrong and stuff like that, then you're going to be damning to them. You have to put the two together and then give them. But you can't do that unless you give those to yourself. And that's not a compassion, and empathy was not something I was giving myself.
And as you look back at the last, however you want to define period of time, but what are some ways that you have shown that empathy or compassion for yourself, like the kindness to yourself, like what has contributed to that feeling of freedom now?
I learned how to cry. I didn't know how. I had a situation, I want to say last month, wasn't even nothing crazy. And I ended up having to pay for a lot of things at a lot of time at once. Like some of the things had nothing to do like with like me, but there are things that I had to pay. And the way I have like my income, the way like how I get paid and everything, I got a pretty decent budget. And then I think it was last month. No, the month before last. One of those. And for the first time in a long time, I had nothing in the account that I spend from. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, I could switch stuff over for here. And like everything was going to hit, like it was coming up on the end of my cycle anyway. So I had like 2-3 days or something like that. And then everything is fixed from everything that I just did. But in that time frame, I had to force myself or just like not force. I had to ground myself as to not pull things from what I invested in. Because if I pulled it out now, yeah, I'm good. But then I go back into it, I'm losing. So, and I needed to do something really small too, because I didn't have to leave the house. I was good, and I had to ask. I didn't have to, but like I asked a friend, his lease up. It was like, hey yo, can you even the way I asked, because it's not a lot. I give people money all the time. You know what I mean? I do a lot of giving, but I'm gonna circle back to that. I asked her, I was like, yo, can you slide me 30 for a day or two, and I get you back with interest, like on this day, because all the dividends, everything hits right here, everything goes way back up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then she was like, oh no, you got it. You don't gotta hit me with like interest and stuff like. But even the way I asked, and then I'm like, I bet, yo, after that voice note, I was walking in my room, bro, and like this oversensing, like overwhelming feeling just hit, because I had been doing a lot of reconnecting with like my little me type shit. Can I cuss on her?
Yeah.
For sure. And I started, nigga. And I started to, bro, I started to cry, like to the floor. Like I sat down, like I felt weak as fuck. And I was like, yo, what is happening right now? Because I know I had to check in. I'm like, yo, something's happening right now. Something's occurring for me to be behaving like this. Something's going on. I'm like, yo, what's happening? And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking like, little man, like, what's going on? What you need? Then I'm like, oh, since I was little, and I realized that I wasn't safe, and I never felt safe. I've always been able to take care of me. And in this moment, you need $30. Yeah, you finna have all this much in this amount of days, 2 days, but today, right now, you need $30, and you can't get that for you without going to go do something else. And then it was like, oh, I can't protect me. And I broke the fuck down. And then, because I felt like I couldn't keep me safe. Mm-hmm. And then I let it happen. And then I'm like, nah, bro, like, you good. Like, I got you. Like, I talk to my inner child like that now. Like, what's going on? Like, when I'm having a feeling for or something, or I want to do something, or like I have an urge to do something, like, I'm like, what need isn't being met that you now feel has to be met outside of you? Tap in and feel, what is that? Mm-hmm. Like, what is that? What do you need? Oh, you don't feel secure right now. You don't feel safe. All right, I'm gonna comfort you. I'm gonna remind you that you're safe. We're gonna walk around the house and go for a walk, and like, you have everything you need. You know what I mean? So, but even in that, right, asking, I need that, and then knowing in my head, like, I've given so much. Yeah. That then made me sit and question, like, well, why were you giving it? Because you could, yes. For sure, because I could. But you were giving it because you didn't value it. I didn't value it. But then also didn't value me. Because you can have, like, I have a very high level of self-confidence. Like, that's real. And then I had to realize, like, oh, bro, you don't have high self-esteem at all. You don't have a high level of self-worth. Not really. Because if you did, objectively looking at how you have been acting, that is not someone who has high self-esteem or self-worth. And so then I look at the things that I had been doing, and I'm like, oh, you were doing that because then you were taking this need that you didn't learn to feel on your own and placing it on someone else. that's how you. This actually is crazy. It's just a little book right here.
Did you place that book there intentionally?
I did not. But it is a very, 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 very clarifying book. It talks about things like the 4 F's responses. It has this concept of emotional flashbacks and CPTSD, not like PTSD complex, post-traumatic stress syndrome. When you're not connected somatically, your parasympathetic nervous system will remind you of traumas that you've gone to. Mm-hmm. But since you're not connected to it, your body will respond as if you're in those traumas.
Yeah, because it's what your brain knows.
Right.
If A, then B.
Right, exactly. So then you'll respond to someone saying something or someone not doing something, and you'll respond to it the way you respond to your core wound. Mm. For me, that was emotional neglect and abandonment. But yeah.
And that's Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you sharing to that depth. I think that goes back to the intentionality thing I was saying earlier, which as I'm not going to open mics every week now, I'm realizing one of the things that open mics gave to me was connecting with people who aren't afraid to tell it how it actually is. Like, just to say, like, whatever fucked up thing you're feeling, thinking, sensing, but just to share that, put it out there and be in community, whether people are talking to you about it or you just have to get it off your chest, your process, whatever it may be. And I think, especially working in such corporate environments.
I'm listening. I'm going to put some tea.
Oh, yeah,
I'm listening, though.
A lot of time when I'm in these corporate environments, I say often with my friends when I'm talking about work, that it's like, it's nice to talk to a real person right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's nice to be seen. It's nice to be able to be in a space where we can say, like, oh, the world's fucked up right now.
Yeah.
We can say, like, oh, I'm not happy right now. I'm frustrated at this right now. I'm hurt right now. This thing happened to me. Because I think when you were mentioning about talking to your inner child and kind of coaching through feeling safe or being safe, having what you need, I think back to a poem that I wrote recently where kind of the inspiration for the poem was the fact that I'm at a position in my life where I can wear blue outside and not think twice about it. Just because growing up, blue was my favorite color. It brought me peace. It brought me joy. And I would even say, like, consciously at the time growing up, blue was something that I knew made me feel happy. But got pressed one time for wearing blue in LA. Somebody's like, oh, what'd you go on that flu for? And I'm like,
that ain't gonna never not be funny to me, flu.
Yeah.
I know, shit is real, but like.
No, I know what you mean.
Shit is still funny.
It's fun, it's hilarious, but it's just
shit
like.
Shit is real, shit is funny.
But as a kid, I'm not allowed to wear my favorite color.
Right.
Not that I'm not allowed to, but it's not safe for me to, depending on certain contexts. And if I wanted to be safe for me to, especially at that time, I gotta bang. Like, it's not no...
You have to fight to express yourself.
You have to fight to express yourself, exactly. But now, like, I got this pair of bright blue, actively black sweatpants that I be wearing. And I could just walk outside in my apartment complex and be okay. And I think that there's times where I've sat with that and having my own conversation with my inner child and when I was younger, there was so much nervousness around even getting dressed to go outside. And now I'm at this place where I can go outside and be okay. Still working through parts of that.
And not have to worry about,
Still working through parts of that for sure, where it's like, I'm very much hyper aware of every single person that passes my periphery. Yeah. And still probably subconsciously looking for threats or whatever it may be, which I'm not mad at. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a tactic that for survival. But just the fact that I can wear blue more often and more freely means a lot to my inner child. But it also makes me sad sometimes thinking about just like how much stress and anxiety could go into even just putting on an outfit to go outside growing up.
That checks out.
I can also cut there while you finish your tea. I don't want you to feel like you have to keep going back and forth.
No, you good. I'm gonna just make it right here. We just take a moment.
Welcome to the tea corner.
Tea corner. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do some honey lavender. You know what I mean? Or yeah, we do honey lavender.
Honey lavender is a good choice. Yeah. But yeah, I wrote that piece where it's just like, yeah, like
Put it on the floor.
I can wear blue now, and it's dope. I can wear a blue shirt.
Right, and not get pressed for your choice of style.
Exactly. Like I just want to wear blue because I like it.
Yeah, for sure. And this, I think, that's like what the associations is for everybody. It's interesting. It's just interesting. Always stepping back and seeing, okay, this little instinct is gonna be the death of us. I swear. But I think it's always interesting, just like, cause you'll see it, you'll put on that shirt and be like, oh, I like this shirt. This is a beautiful color for me. And somebody else will see the shirt and be like, oh, when I was little, that's the color of the shirt that killed my brother.
Yeah.
And then they'll see that shirt. That's what an emotional flashback is, though. They'll see that shirt, and then they'll have an emotional flashback to that moment, and then they'll intellectualize and rationalize what's happening right now, and what they're doing. But what's actually happening is they're being hijacked emotionally by fear from when they were little. And current self will just rationalize that.
Absolutely. And I think that level of understanding is what helps me see who I want to be a part of that village. Just because I'm in so many spaces now where the way people talk about black people in some of these closed door meetings and at the seats at the table, I'm like, y'all talking about my cousin, but you don't even know. Because I'm one of them good ones up in here.
Right.
My degrees up in here, so I ain't one of them ones.
Yeah, you couldn't, man. That is a thing. That is a thing. It's like people create a perception of you. And then, everybody creates perceptions of everybody. But then they just respond from, that's who you are now. That's all you are. And then they see you from that lens. And then now, for someone else, you're stuck in it. But yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's what keeps me in some of these spaces at the same time, because I'm like, y'all know, like, I'm in the room with y'all. I grew up in the neighborhood too. Like, I'm not performing a certain way that you would expect based off of where I grew up, based off of ignorant expectations. But I'm not just gonna let this conversation slide. It's like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Like,
what do you mean by that?
Can you expand on that just a little bit? Yeah. Because I grew up in 103rd and Western, so like that's my neighborhood we're talking about.
No, say more.
What do you mean by that?
Well, yeah. It's always.
And people don't like it. What do you mean by that? When they expect they're around their kin.
Well, yeah, because I think, people will be like, people just be regurgitating shit, actually. Just saying stuff, and it's like, all right, but do you actually even feel that way? I think of like some of the people who, they repeat the dumbest things, not the dumbest, the most ignorant things, and it's like, if you ask them to explain it, they can't, because they actually don't even feel that way. No. They've just accepted it. But we all do that though. No, absolutely. Not in that form.
I think we as a society have evolved to be a lot more okay with people just saying stuff that's rooted in nothing.
But yeah, I guess maybe not even on a societal not even on a societal standpoint. Just like, we'll see that and we'll know, like, all right, that's not it. That's not the way if you don't do that type of things, right? But then we'll do the exact same thing in a relationship. We'll go like, because X, Y, with no context or no anything. And I don't mean relationship as in like a romantic one, just in general. It can be just a person-to-person one. You'll go like, give me an example of something dumb somebody said. Please don't use no names.
Something dumb that somebody said.
At one of these tables that made you go like that.
Well, a recent example this is not necessarily to do with race, but
Yeah.
with ability. Somebody made the comment, was like, oh, I don't understand why somebody would bring somebody who can't walk to an event like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I mean, I would want my grandma at some of these things, and she doesn't have the best mobility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But just because people have these different abilities, they just can't come to the event.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that definitely what, right? But then when I hear that and I go, all right, what's happening here? Oh, why would someone inconvenience somebody else? I would never inconvenience somebody else. And since I would never inconvenience somebody else, nobody else should inconvenience anybody else. That person has an unconscious social contract.
Mm-hmm.
They're going, why would somebody bring somebody who can't have access? That's going to make it harder for other people. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't express what I want to say. I wouldn't do what I want. I wouldn't, if I had somebody who, aunt or something who wanted to come, I wouldn't bring them just so everybody else would be okay. And so because you self-abandoned, you expect others to.
Mm. And that's my perspective of bitch, ain't it?
Ain't it?
But I think that's part of what I'm beginning to recognize as far as the growth I see and appreciate in myself, because for a long time, certain things I would just be like, you know what, people suck anyways, I ain't gonna say what I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as I get into more and more of these spaces, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just say what I'm perceiving and feeling and thinking, just in case y'all, for some reason, ain't thought of it this way.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say nobody said it this way.
Right.
And a lot of times just speaking up in spaces like that, someone's like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Mm-hmm. And from my selfish, for lack of a better word, but my first person perspective, like, how couldn't you see it that way?
Mm.
But it's all nature versus nurture. It's what people are taught, what people are socialized to think, to do, to experience. But I think to tie that all up, I also think that's why I am starting to love podcasts more and more and more, because of the space to like expand these thoughts and talk about them outside of a binary.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about your thought process underneath these things, whether or not we agree on whatever multi-bullet points underneath it. But let me hear more than just knowledge.
Yeah, let me learn. Let me get into your mind. I forgot to give us cups.
I was looking to see where the cups were.
See, but you ain't say nothing though. That's what I'm talking about.
But it was a spirit of conversation. I wanted to make sure that I kept the point going.
Yeah.
And I knew that you're a grown ass man. You can get some cups.
I am an adult. I do. Hey, did you file your taxes?
I did.
You see the changes?
Yeah.
Love that. How we feeling about what's going on with the tariffs?
How do we feel about what's going on with the tariffs? I'll be very honest with you.
Yeah.
The primary thought I have related to a lot of the tariffs really piggybacks off of the conversation we were just having.
Uh-huh.
I hate how a lot of the talking points are just the same talking points. I don't like that everybody's asking what about the terrorists, but a lot of people only know about the terrorists based on what's on ABC News, Fox News, whatever it may be. I think politically there's so much new information not new information, there's so many different new headlines in the news cycle. I think mentally and spiritually I've been more hyper focused on things directly related to the state of higher education, because that not gonna say it more directly impacts me, but it impacts my day-to-day like job and implications on what I have to do like this week, next week. Are these both cups say the same thing? Oh, he knew. What your cup say? Nothing. Black don't crack. That's an old nigga cup.
Hey man. Hey look, I embrace it. I ain't gonna be like these motherfuckers when I got here. Motherfuckers being 40 years old pretending to be fucking 20. Five.
But I say all that to say I don't feel informed enough to have a strong opinion on the tariffs. Like I've been listening and learning a lot about implications of the tariffs, what this could mean for future economic state of our country, the world, depressions, recessions, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that informed
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the tariffs?
My thoughts on the tariffs are the same thoughts I said all those years ago. I mean, I've been talking about this shit for a minute. I didn't foresee him. I didn't foresee him. But our economy is what our economy is. When you run a country like it's a business, which I mean, it's been ran like that for a while, but when you just straight up run it like it's a business and you look at how that's gone for that business, man. Some of the losses that you take in business are a little different when there's people's lives at stake. So I think putting tariffs on people who have tariffs on us, I get it. That makes sense, right? I had to happen at some point. That's the only way to fix something. Well, it's not the only way to fix something, but the way in which he is going about it, it's going to affect us a lot more than it affects them. Essentially, things are going to get more expensive for everybody. And they're like, yeah, at first, but then that's what the bidding war is. You know, you stockpile up and then you're good and you just wait it out. And in the long run, we'll be all right. But here's the thing, though. There's such a gap between actual wealthy and everybody else that the actual wealthy is like, yeah, okay, so we got to hunker down for a little bit. Cool. Everybody else, like, it's two different worlds. They don't even see. I don't, like, sometimes it's like, yeah, they don't care. But I'm like, now, if you grew up like that, if you grew up in a completely different world, because I've been to that world and it is different. Like, conceptually, they don't even understand that. So, I don't know. I think what's happening is going to be hard for everybody that is not wealthy.
That makes me think. Sorry, didn't want to cut you off. You had something you want to say real quick, but something that's been not a hyperfixation of mine lately, but I've been analyzing comedians a lot more and the comedy specials I've been watching, and just like really falling in love with the art of good stand-up comedy. And my favorite comedian, I'm willing to say now. Josh Johnson, absolutely. He's my favorite comedian now and has elevated to like probably my favorite comedian to ever be a stand-up comic. And I listen to like his podcast. I watch all of his specials, all of that.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know he had a podcast. That hurts. Did I just burn you burning me?
No, you didn't burn me.
I just burnt your cards?
You burned the battle locks.
Oh, cool. If y'all don't know, we running the fade later. Well, probably doing this podcast. Let me get a towel real quick.
No worries.
Yeah. You were saying?
I'll wait till you get the towel. But yeah, so Josh Johnson, favorite comedian. He has a Josh Johnson show. Love the podcast. But I'm pretty sure it was him who had the joke that I'm thinking about right now. If it is another comedian, I sincerely apologize to Josh Johnson if you're watching this. If you are watching this, that's dope as hell.
Shout out to you in your gray hoodie.
Absolutely. But he was talking about like the fact that economists, we're heading to a recession, things will be overpriced, yada yada. Then he's like, for a lot of black people, they're like, this ain't nothing new.
Right.
Like, shit was already hard like this. But like you said, like wealthy people who are like, oh, it's going to get real tough over the next X amount of years, are experiencing a fraction of what people have been experiencing their entire lives.
Right.
And I bring up the comedy point of it too, not just to reference that joke, but just like I already grew exponentially in my appreciation for comics, just hosting Black Expression and going to open mics. But the more and more like just general life feels like a SNL sketch, the more I just, man, like comedians really be doing their big one.
I think comedians are the last bastion of free speech.
Yeah, I love it.
I think that comedians, if done right, are actually philosophers.
Absolutely.
I was actually talking to Joking Word a little while ago, and I told him that I was thinking about getting into it.
I remember I forget who said it to you, but you said somebody told you that they thought I could do stand-up comedy, and I've given it thought as well.
Yeah. I mean, because, like, I mean, yeah, people go there to get entertained or something like that. So, I mean, you'll build whatever crowd you build.
Yeah.
But it's something about delivering something genuine or informational, like in the midst of when somebody's the most open to receiving, when they're laughing, when their guard is down, when their biases are suspended in the middle of laughter.
Mm.
And a message might slide through. And then they go, oh, I like this comedian, or I like this joke. And they go tell it to somebody else. You know, you can never tell, not never, but, you know, most times people can't tell a joke as good as the person that tells it. So then...
Not only not as good, some people are awful at retelling jokes.
So then you'll miss the ha-ha of it and only have the point. Mm-hmm. And then you'll have to sit with that. And then now you go tell this other person to watch it because it's funny, but now it's, you know, yeah. What?
Josh Johnson, man.
Josh Johnson.
I got to meet him too. That was really
I saw that.
Yeah, my dad and I, because I put my dad onto him in this podcast and we went to the show like a week after I moved to Ontario, and Josh Johnson was performing there. I was like, oh, I have to go.
What was that experience like going there with your dad? I think that's kind of dope.
It was great. I think first and foremost, it felt like just some grown thing to do with my pops, like going to a comedy show, getting a drink. Because I feel like he comments this, not every time now, but when I first would like get drinks with him, he's like, man, this is weird. Like, I bet. Like, I can't imagine like getting a drink with my son.
Yeah.
But I think it was just cool just because my dad and I have very similar senses of humor, appreciation for art and creativity, and just being in that space with a comedian that I introduced him to, and juxtaposing that with, I mean, all my life he's introduced me to different rappers and different things that he's liked. And so this is something I've introduced him to that I liked first, and just having that shared experience, sharing some laughs, paying attention to what he laughs at and what he doesn't laugh at, and just like seeing the similarities and as well as the differences between us. But yeah, it was great. I think it also was not symptomatic is the word I want to use, but because of the time of my life it happened too, I think it was also reassuring, like starting this new journey in a new area, new job, living in another apartment by myself.
Couldn't wait.
You said what?
I said I couldn't wait any longer.
Oh,
shit burned, but
yeah, I'm paying attention to the steam. I'm like, I know I can't sip yet, but it is very inviting. But yeah, it was a great time. Absolutely great time. And
I keep doing it.
I think I'm just in this space of really wanting to prioritize connecting with people, especially one-on-one. That's why even today in San Diego, I was like, I know there's 4 people that I've already said I was going to see today. Could see more, could not see more, but just wanting to share space and make time for people in real life. And I think being able to have that space with my pops was dope. And even after like living back at home for a few months with him there, that's why curiosity killed the cat.
Hey, look, that's why the cat had 9 lives. I got 6 left. That was 3 sips.
But yeah, that was a comedy experience for sure.
I think that's dope. Just seeing people like spend time with their dad as an adult, like what that experience must be like, because like they literally watched you grow from nothing.
Yeah,
it's like what is that like for the person? It's not too thick. What is that like to see little you look like you did when you don't look that way no more?
I feel like you should interview my dad on the banquet hall.
Yeah.
Like, I should interview him too, but I'm curious I'm always curious. One of the reasons why, because my dad is somebody who's watched every episode of the podcast. Yeah. And one of the reasons why I like asking guests, like, oh, what was your first impression of me? And
so he can get to know you from a different,
And also, like, be like talking shit too. Like, your son doing his big one. Yeah. Because like, I feel like he has always had a son who has received a lot of praise and like awards and recognition, but a lot of it in an academic sense. But for me to go off to college, become the man I am today, and for him to get that feedback through the podcast, I think it's kind of cool. Yeah. And I'm sure he has seen me do that, but I haven't said that I'm doing that either. Yeah. But just like because I think one of the things that's been on my mind a lot lately is the fact that this life path I'm on is not one that the Nathans have been on. Like, I'm the case study of going to college and then what happens after college. Like, getting a full-time job, making a solid salary, working in this corporate environment, having power and influence, also navigating the realm as an artist with power and influence. Like, there's just a lot of stuff where it's like, this isn't a life path that was offered to a lot of people.
What do you find to be the most challenging of that intersection of having influence and having influence and power and access while also being a creative?
You said what's the most challenging part of it?
Yeah, what is the most challenging part of that intersection?
It's a great question. A couple of things come to mind, so I might just kind of talk through them and trust that I'm going to make sense along the way.
Get for the lines.
The first thing that came to mind was, I think and I'll contextualize this, obviously a lot of listeners already know this, but for those who maybe this is their first episode listening, in college I studied cognitive science, the science of the mind. Also got my master's in business, also a poet, work in higher education. All these different things all contribute to how I experience and see the world. And also my upbringing is a part of that, growing in an area of LA that wasn't the most impoverished area of LA, wasn't the most affluent middle class area of LA, neither, somewhere in the gray area of that. But I think more now than ever, I'm seeing where things can go left very easily based off of micro decisions. Like, when you have a lot of power, when you have a lot of influence, when people respect who you are and people trust who you are, it's very easy to go left and ruin that whole shit. And part of that, I would say, is framed by my perfectionism too, to where I have the feeling that not that I could ruin everything, but I see where the slippery slopes are and avoiding those slippery slopes. As an example to that, and just to kind of highlight that point even more, when I talk about being in some of these meetings, working for a university, I see where it's important for me to ask the question, what about the Black students? What about this marginalized group? Because I'm the subject matter expert in that. Like, my perspective in that is important. I need to be in that space saying those things, because if I just allow it to happen, I was the block to certain Black students getting certain, not benefits, but for lack of a word, like progress overall.
Progress, just the opportunities and stuff.
But I think more getting into the artist area of that too, I think I see it a lot in my interaction with people of different genders and seeing where men can easily mess up just based off of how they were raised, what they were exposed to, what they weren't exposed to, what role models they have in their life. Because I know that I have the trust of a lot of people, and there's a lot of people who use that to manipulate people. There's a lot of people who use that and end up betraying people. And I think just the frame of being an artist, being in these spaces of artists, hearing all these poets and things they've gone through, as well as studying the mind and how people perceive and sense and think things, I'm hyper aware of moments where I'm like, let me make sure I'm not being manipulative and make sure I'm operating from a space of
very important.
Perceiving
and
important. Responding.
That is very important.
Just because words matter, and I think this goes back to creative part too. Words matter. How we respond to things matter. How the energy that we give people matters. And I've just seen a lot of spaces where men make women feel not safe, where men make women feel like they're uncomfortable, and I think I'm very hyper conscious of those things. Using like relation to other genders as an example, but in all facets of life, where it's like, okay, I've worked with students who are along varying lines on the spectrum of sexuality, gender, whatever it may be. I see where it's important for me to use inclusive language. I see where it's important for me to not be an example of setting these heteronormative standards or whatever it may be. And just knowing that I'm in these spaces where I have a lot of power and influence to where I have to stand in that.
Okay.
I have to be okay in staying in that.
Yeah.
I think I lost the other thing I was going to say along the way.
Where's the balance for you with that?
You said where's the balance?
Where's the balance for you in that? One of the things for myself, one of the things I found was like, yeah, when a lot of people have like a lot of trust and shit in you,
Mm-hmm.
like you want to make sure you are responsible with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with anything, moderation, because for me, I found at certain points, not in recent years or anything, but like I had found looking back on things, I'm like, oh, I was so hyper focused and so hyper fixated on doing this that I was looking out for people manipulating there or here, and may have been blind to how people are using that to manipulate me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm curious where you find balance for it too, but I think the thing that first comes to mind for me is that's where I go back to the notion of who my village is, who my close friends are. Yeah. Because I have friends that I'll be in the same kind of thought pattern, being very careful in what I'm saying, and then we remind you like, hey, you ain't got to throw the disclaimers here. Like, we good. Yeah. Like, I know what you're doing. I know who you are. I know who you are as a person. You don't have to worry about, just be you. Naturally be you without trying to make edits, without trying to perform or come off as a certain way, but just be you. For example, when we was in Turks and Caicos, we were just having a good time. Jokes was flying that in certain spaces ain't gonna fly in those spaces, but it's a shared space where, one, we can say like, that was hilarious. Yeah. You shouldn't be saying that shit. Yeah. We can like be drunk, we can be having a good time, call out things that we need to call out, but it all comes from a place of community and keeping people together and keeping people in. And I feel like I find a lot of peace in my close friendships and in my village when we could just joke around, acknowledge everything we need to acknowledge, but just like, be human, be allowed to make mistakes, be free to just exist and operate normally. And I think there's time and place for that too, like in the corporate environment and work and all these different spaces that I was alluding to. But I think I operate from a lens of building this bigger picture that I'm also still figuring out. Yeah. Like, I know who I need to be and what I want to be in order to get to where I want to get to. And part of that entails like being cautious with spaces I'm in, being intentional about the influence that I have. But also in this latest phase of life, and I feel like I've been talking too much, but in this latest phase of life.
Have some tea, Nick.
Yeah, it has cooled off. I'm going to have some tea in a second. Talking my shit. Like, this is I just want to, like, I got enough people who can vouch for who Kyler are. Let me do the Kyler thing. If you have questions, refer to the book. Refer to the podcast.
If you have questions, refer to the book. That's what it's like. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like, I'm 29. Let me start being 29. Let me start being 52.
That part, because being in your head so much has a way of aging you more than you actually are.
Yeah.
And then, like, you're operating from a space of oldness. I mean, oldness. You operating from a space of, like, I don't have that much time left.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I was, like, that concept of a midlife crisis is funny to me. Because I'm like, bro, I didn't think I was going to make it past 25.
Did you have a midlife crisis at 12?
Actually.
Because that's what I wonder. And that's the other thing that's been on mine too. Like, all these idioms that we use and, like, where they do show up.
Yeah, damn. No, I did have some shit at 12. But see, what I've been realizing is, like, bro, like, it's really been nonstop. It's stopped now, but I didn't realize how nonstop it was. It really was nonstop, and how much chaos had become my normal. And so then, how much it, like, enmeshed with my day-to-day. To where there are things I look at now, things I've said now, and look at now, I'm just like, oh, nigga, you was not okay.
Yeah.
Damn, bro. Like, you thought that for real. Or, like, you didn't have no type of boundaries. Or you you was angry. And you didn't know you were angry. You were hurt. You didn't know you were hurt. And you was sad. You didn't know you were sad. You just moving through. You just moving through. You just moving through. Wow, shit.
Yeah. And I love it all the same. I think that's like where poets just become superheroes in my mind too. Because even doing a lot of reflecting lately, I've been thinking about how like good I feel that of the emotional level of emotional intelligence that I do have and what I am able to name. Mm-hmm. And also juxtaposing that with when people aren't really ready.
I should have never brought that word up. What? Juxtapose.
I use juxtapose.
You said that shit like 17 times.
I love juxtapose.
Yeah.
I get you. But I do genuinely love the word juxtapose. But that alongside people who may not have the language or feel comfortable yet expressing like that raw level of emotion that, and I'm not just limiting this to poets, but obviously as a poet, I'm speaking from that experience, that poets are able to reach. Because I think as I think through like healing from a breakup and where I'm at now versus where I was at 4 years ago, I'm at a place where I approach, going back to the intellectualizing thing, I'm kind of like reflecting and thinking about things like very intellectually and like observing things observing and reflecting things that I was feeling and being able to dictate the level of sadness I was feeling in the moment without fully going back to that moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's work. That's feeling. That's feeling versus intellectualizing. Which is something that a lot of people don't understand is a skill, a learned skill. And if you weren't taught that growing up, then 9 times out of 10 you're codependent. Which that word in of itself, I think there's a perception of what that is that isn't what it actually is.
What's codependence to you?
Control. Anybody who's codependent, essentially is someone who hasn't healed from an abandonment wound and has learned that their needs as a child during their developmental years were not worth meeting. And so then they learned that they weren't worth meeting. And so then they, someone who is codependent then puts their needs on someone else to meet. But it's not like, oh, I need you to do this or that. No, you can get that way. You can fawn, you can fight, you can freeze, you can fawn, fight, freeze, or flight. And you can do those things. But essentially, being codependent is to be a chameleon, to pride yourself in being able to operate in any room because of how much you can contort yourself to appease, to get the desired outcome. Codependency is really just manipulation that hasn't been made aware to the self. And that's like one of the things, like when you're being in denial, but all denial isn't conscious denial. You know, or you're aware of your denial. You can be lying and don't even know you're lying. Because you believed that your needs weren't worth being met. And so when something happens, or you end up dealing with somebody or something, that's what trauma bonds and shit form. You'll meet somebody and y'all have similar wounds. And y'all little kids, y'all inner children play unsupervised when there's no inner parents. And now y'all have probably, you make a connection, but then that connection can get drowned out by an attachment. And now you are each other's coping mechanism while being each other's abusers. So codependency is really just the fear of giving up control. And I don't think anyone who's codependent has to stay codependent. You can do work and undo that, but it requires you to let go of the fear of being in control or the unknown, which for me, I found when people be having like SI and shit, suicidal ideations, that shit be coming from your inner child is so terrified of feeling helpless, like you felt before when you were little. They would rather die than feel helpless. But it's not that you're actually helpless, you're just doing something that's never happened before. Your choice or not.
What spaces have made your inner child feel safe lately?
Me. I don't look for spaces that my inner child feels safe in.
Mm-hmm.
They come. Or I end up in them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the responsibility of my inner child feeling safe is mine.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to me. If my inner child doesn't trust me, then my inner child will want something that's not good for them. Will do whatever to end up in something that is not good for them. Because it meets the needs that I'm failing to provide.
Mm.
And so when I have a situation, I used like a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't be going out like that because I don't want to talk about dancing, though. I do a lot of bachata now. That shit is actually fire.
You be hitting that shit?
I be hitting that shit. I be hitting that shit. It's actually ironically funny, but I'll fuck with it though. But I went out to one a few days ago, and I went with somebody from one of the classes, and we're there, and then like these white girls is there, and they come up, and I'm thinking it's a social, so they know how to dance. They did not. And then they literally, white claws in hand, we're from Oregon. We're just out here for the weekend. What are you guys doing? And I'm so uninterested. I could not be less interested. But the dude I'm with is with it. Mm-hmm. Like the dude I met there, he with it. And I realized while I'm talking to him and them, I'm entertaining things that I don't want to entertain. Which I ultimately did not entertain. But when I went home, something just fell off. And then I'm going to sleep, and then like just these images of like scary movies and shit is like popping up. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm hunting or nothing like that. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? But I've learned how to slow down and check in. So I'm like, all right, let me integrate the intellectualizing with actually feeling. And I see, okay, what am I feeling? All right. Okay, so I'm having these images and I'm not scared. But why are these images popping? Oh, you're scared. What's going on? Why is my little man scared? What's going on? Oh, we haven't been performing in a very long time. I have not been performing in a very long time. I don't perform. But that felt a little like performing. And you're scared that we're going to go back. We're not, I got you. You good? We're not. I can acknowledge that. I'm sorry I made you feel unsafe. But we good. Images stop. Great sleep.
You said great sleep?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think that's... Yeah. I resonate with that just in terms of I think that one of the most important things that I've learned through osmosis of hearing a lot of people talk about their journeys with it, through podcasts, through reflecting, meditation, whatever it may be, but that emotional self-regulation. Mm-hmm. And I think it's something so impactful because it's helped me to when I'm feeling overly anxious, overly stressed, or if I can feel my inner child being afraid, I can, like you said, slow down the thought process. All right, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Like, intentionally taking those breaths, taking a sip of water. I know anytime I feel anxious, like even if I'm anxious, I need to take a walk. I need to get fresh air. And so I'll literally, once I feel myself get anxious, I'm like, all right, let me go ahead, put my hoodie on, go outside, take a walk, breathe, and just like self-soothe, self-regulate. And just because every time she crosses my mind, I have to say it out loud on the podcast, especially. But Kai is someone who taught me a lot of that. And I literally, anytime I like think back to the first time that her and I did yoga together, and some of the breathing that we were doing together, I'm like, okay, like go back to this moment, go back to these things that you know. And I think she is a person who, for me, I don't know where I want to go with this, but the power of words and like affirming out loud the people that impact our lives, I think my relationship with her is something that I feel that like inner calling to just like I want to like say it out to the universe, like thank you, Kai, like thank you for teaching me these things. Similar to many people I meet in the poetry community, like just thanking them for all that they put into the world, the energy they put into the world just by being them and being 100%.
I feel like
freestyle, another example. Every time I see freestyle at an open mic, I'm like, man, thank you just for like your natural just self. Thank you for being present. Thank you for seeing me. And it made me think of an Instagram caption you recently wrote where it was talking about being seen and like just the power of that. And just
talking about other people's like the perception.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it just made me think of just the people in my life who have influenced my ability to self-regulate and influence some of the tools that I use based off of just those shared experiences. Something you said recently to me was that like it's healthy to be angry, which for everybody I work with, you shouldn't have said that to me. I'm just angry all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's healthy though. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, so there's healthy anger.
Yeah.
And there's unhealthy anger.
No, absolutely.
But like for sure, being angry is healthy because it stops you from shaming yourself. Because there are things you should be angry about. This person did do these things. I should be angry about this. My mom did let this happen. I should be angry about this. Because if I'm not, then that gets turned inward. And then I start to believe those things. Like, bro, when I tell you, like, that shit get deep, like, to the point where people will tell you, people don't talk about, like, honest growth and then while you're growing, if you're actually doing it, so much of you changes. Or not even changes, like, becomes. Because it's like, bro, like, to the point, bro, like, I don't think people talk about enough how your sexual preferences change as you heal. Like, even the way you have sex and stuff you into, it changes as you heal. Because a lot of it is linked to trauma. Like, like, bro, you know, it's TMI for the podcast. I ain't had sex since, like, December. And I don't even desire to. And I feel phenomenal, bro. Like, I feel phenomenal. And I don't think enough of, like, as we talk about going through this healing, as we go about growing and stuff like that, we only talk about what gets better or what we stop doing. Or, like, this process was hard. But, like, you don't talk about, like, okay, so what helps for you? Like, somatic things that you do. Those are good, right? But also recognizing what behaviors mean. Like, if I find myself all of a sudden having a tug, what used to be a yearn, but like a tug for a particular person, I'll stop and I go like, okay. What's happening here? What need isn't being met? Like, what do you need? Oh, you need connection. Okay, well, I'm gonna call a friend. Or we gonna go do something to connect. Because that pull is tied to the original one. And as you learn to identify what these, I'm not gonna call them impulses,
Natural
urges.
Urges.
You know, when you have an urge or something like that, that's literally your body telling you something. It's all communication. It's telling you something. And your association with that feeling has become, your association with that need has become this space for some people who have MBX, or this person. Your association, your color blue, that blue shirt that you wanted to wear. For somebody else, that urge, that association has been loss. So I'm feeling lost. I don't know how to feel lost, so I'm gonna be angry. You think you miss this person. No, you don't. You don't. You miss what inner you was provided at that time. And that is something you can provide for yourself.
Can at times you actually miss the person though?
You can miss that. You can 1000%. But it's like, even if you miss somebody, you don't go, I miss this person as a person.
Yeah.
That's not a thing.
That's all the connections.
Right. I miss this part of this person. Not even a part. I miss the part of my perception of this person. Or I miss this activity or this connection or this feeling that was allowed to flow with this person, that flowed so naturally with this person. Which is fine, unless that feeling only flows with that person. Because then inner you is taught I can only access this with this person, so that's a loss I can't take. So then you'll contort yourself. You'll change yourself into something that is unrecognizable and never realize that it is something that is unrecognizable. You'll trade your self-esteem for connection. That is really just attachment. Until you go and recognize when that yearn or when that is happening, that it's like, oh no, I need something that I haven't yet learned how to provide for myself. That's the first step. And then figuring out what that something is the second. And then learning how to provide that for yourself. And then after you learn how to provide that for yourself, reminding yourself that it is something that you can't provide. Because now you don't have an idealized version of that person, which isn't fair for that person or that space.
Right.
Like, for example, with Black expression, there's some people who held it in such a high regard into everything that, like, I remember the first time I left, motherfuckers was mad at me.
Yeah.
I remember directly somebody being mad at me that I wasn't in San Diego because somebody had came up to their job and they didn't feel safe and I wasn't there. Nigga, you don't even know that I'm not in the city or that my mom is having a surgery that she could possibly die on the table. Very few people knew that, but very few people asked. And so you have that situation to where it's like, okay, that's interesting. It's the first time I said something about that and I actually don't have a physical response for it. It's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. But point being, I'm kind of stuck now because I'm like, that's kind of cool. I forgot what I was saying now because that's kind of cool.
Hey, I mean, I think those moments are always beautiful too.
Yeah.
Those moments where you just pause, like, hey, that's dope.
Yeah,
it's dope that I feel that way.
Yeah,
or don't feel that way.
All right, or that I don't because it allows me to extend grace.
Absolutely. And you saying that made me think of when I was announcing to the masses that I was leaving San Diego. Part of which, even going back to me leaving San Diego, I felt this need to let people know I was leaving because I knew what I meant to a lot of people. And I was paying attention to how people were reacting to me moving, what was being said, what wasn't being said, and similar to, not similar obviously to the exact situation, but something that I feel is in harmony with what you just stated was that somebody was like, oh, what am I supposed to do if you're leaving San Diego? Like, what you mean what you supposed to do with me leaving San Diego?
Yeah.
Like, what about me? What about me? What about me? What about me? Do you know why I'm leaving?
Did you ask?
Because I think there is a percentage of people that think I just left San Diego, was tired of San Diego, hated San Diego, was tired of UCSD, whatever it may be. But I was like, nah, like my grandparents are getting older. I want to be closer to family.
Did you ask?
I'm living 15 minutes from people who 15 minutes is too far to pop up.
You left ultimately you left for you.
Yeah. It was a me choice. It was a tough me choice, but it was a me choice.
It was for you, and that's, to me, that's enough. Like, that's enough. And people gotta, everything really is everything, because people gotta accept that. Like, I mean, shit, I had to accept that in some cases. It's like, when you left for you. And not for anybody else, not because of anybody else. And not, if people care about you, then that has to be enough. They can miss you. They can miss what they had with you or whatever the connection was. But ultimately, if you left for you, and I actually give a shit about you, they gotta respect that.
Yeah.
You gotta respect it.
And
you gotta want it. They gotta, in fact, I would say more than respect it. They have to applaud it.
I like that. What I was going to say is I even feel like since I left, I feel like you and I's relationship has grown stronger too.
1000%.
And I think part of it is because of where you're at in your journey, where I'm at with my journey, but we're able to connect outside of everything. We could just, you'll think of me, hit me up, call me, I'll call you, or be like, oh, you got time to chat? We chat for a bit and connect, but just you and I connecting. We're not in the back of an open mic. We're not headed to an open mic.
Yeah.
We're not in between two events. We're just like, let me check on this nigga. Let's see how he doing.
Niggas is really running around all San Diego, hitting 6 events in a day and being fully a part of all. Bro, what the fuck was we doing, dog? Like, what? I went to an event last night. And I was there and I was like, there was a moment that was like, I bought the tickets and everything. And there was a moment at the end that was like, everybody move the chairs. And I was like, no.
That was moving the chairs. Oh my God, I was saying too. I was like, nah,
I was like, actually, nah. Actually, and not even on some, like,
not wanting to help shit.
Not wanting to help shit, just on some, not on some, like, I supported the way I wanted to support, the way I had the capacity to support. And I think that moving and things like that is a very small thing. It's not a big ask. I think that's a very genuine, and I think that's not insane to ask at all. But in that moment for me, I was like, oh, I am not running this event. I'm not doing anything at this event. I can just be here and I can leave when I want to leave. I can just sit here. Bro, I sat there, crisscross applesauce in the front. Like, it's chairs. I dead ass. I wrote a little bit. I got, like, my headphones is in, so I got, like, because people are singing and stuff like that. I have my headphones is in, and really, really low, I have, like, this this chakra, like, the little, not the little things playing at a real, real low level, so I can hear the music and still take this in. I'm just present, and I'm just like, I'm chilling, bro. Like,
yeah. And
then as we talking right now, I just think about, like, imagine putting that on and then just running to be 20 minutes. Bro, what the fuck was we doing? Like, in 20 minutes, got to be on the other side of the fucking town and do all this emotional labor and then not have the enough sense to see, like, bro, nigga, you are killing yourself. 2, if you're giving everything else here, you have nothing to give to your actual personal dynamics. I think, which is why I think we're closer now, because I'm learning how to nurture relationships. I didn't know how, bro. Like, which is why everybody was just taught to me in crisis. Only person who, like, really didn't would be Sega, and or like not on open mic shit, just like outside would be like Sega, Celise, like during that time frame, other than that, bro, like, actually not even Sleece on that time frame. Sleece was like in a dynamic at the time. And I didn't even realize it because, and that's not to say other people didn't try, but I just didn't have access to myself then. So like, I couldn't even tell. I couldn't even, I don't know, I think I'm in this moment, I'm just going back and be like, dog, I cannot imagine being that disconnected again.
In survival mode.
It is so clear. Nigga, shout out to my exes. Y'all motherfuckers was brave. Cause nigga, what? Not even just them, just like friendships. Like my friendships were like all the same. Like, I'm here. But like, I remember I had a moment when I was looking at my phone and I was scrolling through it because I needed to talk to her or some shit like that. This was like a while ago. Not like recent, but like a while ago. And I scrolled through my whole phone. I just kept scrolling. And I was like, I don't feel like I can call any of these people.
Damn.
And I knew I could. Like, intellectually, I knew I could. But I didn't feel like I could. And so then, right. So intellectually, I know I could. But I didn't feel it. And I didn't know then that was my body even telling me then, like, you're not connected. Like, slow down. Bro, I don't rush for nothing no more. Bro, I will not rush, because if I'm rushing, I'm not in alignment. And I had this thing on my phone, slow. I've never been a nigga that, it's a bunch of shit I'm a matcha nigga now. You know what I'm saying? I like matcha. Actually, I'm ordered a matcha too, because nigga, I want some matcha. But like, I wasn't even a nigga that have like quotes on their phone.
Unless you got your own mantra on your phone.
And then it says, forcing connection is forcing alignment. Forcing alignment is forcing attachment. Ego seeks attachment, soul seeks connection. You'll never have to force anything that aligns with you. What's meant for you will feel natural, peaceful, connected, not forced and chaotic.
I got this shit on my phone.
I mean, same thing.
Oh, no, I'm just messing. It's actually a dynamic background, so it changes every time I lock the phone.
Water your garden. You saw it?
Yeah, I mean, and I get my tidbits from whatever's on the screen at the time. Yeah. Like, hey, maybe I didn't need to see this puppy right now.
You want a matcha for real though?
I'll take a matcha.
Nigga, matcha niggas. You want to pause it while we get matcha?
Sure.
And we can pick it back up, man.
Yeah.
And tell these niggas what's going on with these cards that we in address on the table.